All right, so hi, welcome to this overview of the AP exam. I'm going to try to do this as quickly as possible. I'm going to show you what I made that you can refer to today and tomorrow, and then walk you through the exam in as kind of brief and targeted a way as possible so that you actually kind of can get some stuff out of this and you know what to look at after this video is over. So let's just go straight to the top. This is an insane document, potentially, but let's see. So I made you this thing called AP Seminar EOC. By the time you see this video, this will be shared on Google Classroom. It has 5 things in it. First, a detailed overview. This is kind of the content of this video. So I'm going to talk through this. And a lot of what I'll say is kind of written down in here. Second, a kind of quick guide. This is a quick guide. Pretty cool quick guide. And this is what you can refer to after, hopefully you watch this video, as a refresher. This is the rubric for part A, and this is the rubric for part B. And then finally, this is the link over here to the AP exam that I'm going to be referring to, which is last year's test. Let's jump in. So I'm going to talk you through the test, what to do, what to look out for. You may have a strategy that's different. I'm going to try to speak to what I think would be most useful for most people. All right. So let's get started. I won't go through all of this. I'm not going to read this. I'm just going to talk through it. So this is not, I'm not going to read out all these pages to you. So don't worry about that. So as you know, exam has 2 different parts. It has a part A and a part B. Part A is 30 minutes recommended. It's worth 15 points. You read 1 article and you answer 3 open response questions about the article. Part B is worth 24 points, and you read 4 articles, find a common theme, develop an argument about that theme that represents an original perspective or an original argument in some way, and then you write an argumentative essay. The recommended time for that is 90 minutes. So let's look at part A first. A way to think about this. So there's 3 questions. They're asking you to do 3 different things. The first is asking you to identify the argument's, the author's main idea. The second is asking you to explain their line of reasoning. And the third, to evaluate the effectiveness of their evidence. And I think we all know this. We've gone through this. And so what I want to do is just walk through, like, this is how I recommend you answer this question. This is what you avoid doing, too. So a lot of this I'm basing on going through all of the most recent readers' reports and score reports from last year's test. First thing you do is you read it, and you find the main idea. Almost always true. It has 3 parts, right? So it's 3 parts. We don't know what form those parts will take. Here are some forms I've seen. Sometimes it's a policy argument. So it's like, what should happen? Who's affected by it? And like, what are the benefits? Sometimes it's like a problem solution. The problem, why it matters right now, and what the solution should be. Or maybe it'll be like the problem, the solution, and then why it overcomes limitations. Sometimes you'll see it's like diagnostic. So they'll be like, there's this thing happening. Here, this is the cause. I have the cause. I figured it out. And this is what the implications are, if my cause is correct. Finally, sometimes, I don't know, it's like a categorical argument. So it's like making a claim. These are the categories of effect. And I'm going to list out now specific effects in each category. So when you kind of take this, you start to read this, go through, make sure you're finding like 3 parts to the argument. They're not going to be grouped in one place. It's not going to be a quote. It's going to be like distributed across the text. Now, here's some answers that did not work for the AP. The author's main idea is that parents should be paid for parental leave. They were like, no, wrong, bad. It was missing these things. Country, stakeholders, specific benefits, things like this. This also scored a 1 out of 3 possible points. The main idea in this passage is that although it feels that the action for climate change comes at the expense of something else, there is a way to move forward. Too vague. Not clear what the 3 things are. This one's a 2. Let you read that. This one's a 2, not because it's missing like distinct points, just because they're not fully correct. It seems to be focused only, well, I mean, I guess it's really only 2 points here. It's like the low-income parents getting paid leave, and then it having good health effects. But then it's missing the kind of like broader thing about US policy. These are the real responses they gave a 3 to, okay? And I included the typos. In the article, The Urgent Necessity for Paid Parental Leave, author Zara Abrams establishes that current U.S. offered unpaid leave is not sufficient for many families for reasons such as poverty and not being qualified for FMLA. So first, not sufficient for families right now. Therefore, so that's the problem, therefore, author thinks that we need widespread, we need more inclusive parental leave, and that the U.S. should implement it, and then the reasons why. And there are a few different reasons. So this is a problem solution-y one. And then in this one, it also is a problem solution-y one, but the order is switched of the kind of like why it's good, and it ends in the solution. So this is fine to do. But so it you have all 3 parts, and then with those in hand, you move on to question 2, which is about the line of reasoning. I really want, this is an important part, so everybody listen to this part. Put down your phones, okay? The difference between doing well here and doing poorly is like very like subtle and kind of hard to grasp. So I want you to think about it like this. The language you're going to use is what I'm going to call structural and not like sequential. So let me explain what that means. So you're going to take the 3 parts of your main idea, and you're going to say, basically explain like how the author builds a structure, like builds a building from like, that goes from like the first claim to the second, or like from the first part of the main idea to the second to the third. However, you're not going to describe it with language that's like, first they go here, second they go here, third they go here. For some reason, the AP like really truly hates that. They just like it really bothers them. And so what you're going to do instead is you're going to use language like it's like a building, like architectural language. You're going to say that the author opens with this claim, then builds upon that claim with this other claim. Then they pivot to something else. And you are going to mention, this is also important, how they address the counterclaims, how they are able to build something which functions as a rebuttal. Rather than saying next, they introduce the counterclaim and refute it. So I have some examples here of like next, of like first they did this, second they did this, third they did this, and how that scored like a 2 or a 1, versus the higher ones, which talks about how the author uses the claim. Like, the author uses this claim to do this. It helps to contextualize the argument and draw the reader in. We want that more than just like, first this, then that. In a sense, you're talking about what role does the claim serve in the argument, rather than just saying it comes second in the argument or it comes third in the argument. So, I mean, maybe a better name for it actually would be functional, not structural. May add that right now. Okay. This is important. They really like this. I'm not going to ever try to change this document again while I'm recording, because that is messing up everything. All right, moving on. How long have I been doing this for? I can't tell. Not great. Number 3. Okay, also really important. So for the pieces of evidence that you're talking about, you want to, again, focus on the claims that make up the main idea, or that seem to be really important from the line of reasoning you just kind of sketched out in question 2. For each piece of evidence, you have to do 2 things: the credibility of the source and the relevance of the actual evidence in the text that comes from the source. Now, the credibility is in general, but it's also like for this particular claim. And the relevance is also for this particular claim. In this document here, I have talked about different types of credibility, when it's credible, when it's not, when it's relevant, when it's not. Note that in the actual writing you do, you need to say what the evidence is. So if you just say they cite a study from Princeton, that doesn't count. You have to say, like, they cite a study from Princeton that tested the plasticity of the brain under conditions of like excessive oxygen exposure on Tuesdays. You have to say that part for it to actually count as you working with this evidence in your answer. And so I gave you some more examples here. And then one of the best ways, like the best things you could do, I think the easiest things you could do too, is to find a claim that doesn't have any evidence and just be like, the author doesn't cite any evidence to support this claim, even though maybe it's kind of intuitive and you say, well, this is an intuitive claim in a certain sense. However, the claim does important work in their argument. The fact that they don't cite a source is troubling, and damages the credibility of the author's argument. It's an easy way to just like quickly check off another piece of evidence there. Okay, so that's great. So you do that. Let's say you do that in half an hour, 35, 40 minutes. You're golden. You're on your way. It's all looking up. You get to part B, argument. All right, so this is going to be the hard part. You don't write yet. Don't write. You're gonna give yourself 15 minutes to read and annotate and plan, and that's gonna feel so stupid the day of, because you're gonna be like, why am I spending this time doing this right now? But I have never seen a case where a student's work has suffered from taking time to plan beforehand. I've only seen cases where by writing immediately, people have done worse than they could have. Especially here, because they're really not. It's really easy to write like a 5-paragraph essay on a theme in the packet when the packet tells you the theme in like the title of the first article. And they're not looking for that. They want a thoughtful essay from you. And so you really do, I think, need to read carefully. And so I want to give you like a benchmark, a standard that you can use to be like, oh, I've read carefully. And so here it is. So you get the packet, and you will have scratch paper on the exam as much as you want. And first you're going to go like look through it and figure out the theme. Theme should be very clear, power or labor, or maybe it'll be AI this year or something like that. And then you want to figure out each article's perspective on the theme, right? Which is their point of view that they convey through the argument that they make. Now, there might be some that have like a neutral perspective, like usually there's like a opinion poll or a research report, like the Americans feel this and Americans feel that. That's okay, but for at least two of them, this is what I want you to do. So you're going to have two articles in there, the ones that are like not the fiction story or the poem, not the research report, the ones that are like the essay and then the other essay, or like the opinion piece in the newspaper. Those two, you are going to find the main idea of those articles. And you're going to find the main idea, not in the sense of like power is good, power is bad, but in the exact sense you did for part A, question 1. So that's going to be your standard for like I read carefully. Your standard for I read carefully is that you have found the main idea for two articles to the same depth, like the same kind of level of detail that you did for question 1 in part A. So it's a few sentences, right? And so you actually need to like read it to do that. That's going to be so helpful. That will be so helpful. That'll take you like 10 minutes to do, and then you'll be set. If you do that, you will be so set. So let's say you do that. You do that, you are good. You're going to do that, and this is the plan then. You're going to not really do too much with the fiction story at all. Unless something just like sings to you. If it does, go and God bless. But you're going to have these two articles that you really know now. Like you have their really solid main idea. It's like 2 or 3 sentences long, and you've written it out. Then you have the research report, and you've like looked through it, and you see some interesting kind of like data and stuff that tells you something about the topic too. Now, to get the full credit for this essay, you need to develop your own perspective. There are 3 ways you can do that. And so you have these 2 perspectives, and you know what they are, and now it's you. You have to figure out your own. So you could, 1, you offer one that's just not in the sources. That would be dope. That's cool. If you can do that, great. If it jumps out to you, cool. That's where the fiction piece is kind of helpful, actually, because it's like if you can see how the fiction piece works with the main idea, works with the like the theme, it might give you an idea for what you might want to say about it. But don't get anxious about that if you don't see it. The original perspective is going to be like maybe you find a gap between the 2 articles that you read in depth and where there's something that they don't address. Or maybe you find some tension, or maybe there's this whole other area they haven't even thought about yet, or that they are wrong about, that you want to kind of bring to the front. Now, another one you could do is you could apply one of their perspectives in a very sophisticated way. This is like you can apply the first one to a school context, or both of them. You could apply the second one to a policy problem. And the third is you make a strong thematic connection. You find a way that, like, if you read them together, they say something that isn't contained in either one alone. So I give you a lot of examples here from the actual student writing over the last few years, which kind of does exactly that, like these original things. Shows you what like the not original ones look like too. Next, sketch out your essay. Outline it. Like, be like, I'm going to think about this in paragraph 1, this in paragraph 2. I think you should do like your topic sentence, source evidence, and then think about what you might say about it. This is also important, counter-argument or limitation. You want that tension and richness of perspectives, just like throughout the course we've done in all of our papers. And if you can't find it in the pieces, you can just like think from different sides. Like, you can ask a question that you think might be a good challenge to your position, and then you can address it. Finally, when it comes time to write, just make sure you're writing with your argument, not with your theme. Always open with your argument each paragraph. Don't open with the source or what the source says. And really take a look at these parts here. So the right section of this document, I would love for you to just like sit with for like 5-10 minutes and just read through. I talked a little bit about citing. And then if you have time, proofread. Okay? I tried to say, so these are things that apply throughout. Sequential narration, which is basically just summary, is not analysis, and kind of loses you points everywhere. So you want functional analysis, you want argumentative analysis, you want, or argumentation, but not summary, not like this happens, and this happens, and this happens, and this happens. Something having credentials isn't enough for it to have credibility because the credibility has to do with the specific context also. And then summary, like I said, is not an argument. So I guess I'm again trying to keep this as short as possible. I feel like I've already talked for like 6 hours. Okay, that might be it. And so the quick reference guide has some of this stuff in here. I say paragraphs here. I don't mean, so when I say like for part A, I'm like 3 paragraphs or 2 paragraphs. I don't mean like a 5-sentence paragraph. I just mean like write a chunk of text, like a sentence or 2, go to the next, write a chunk. Just separate them so they see that you are addressing different pieces of evidence. And then finally, if you have any questions about any of this, like I'm around, just hanging, thinking about Monday for you. So let me know, and I will answer your questions. And I really hope this video doesn't get corrupted or just like punk out on me when I try to end it right now. And then I would have to record it again. But let's assume it doesn't happen, because good things happen, not just bad things. And I will see you guys on Tuesday. Okay? Good luck.